The Chamber has been very vocal in our support for public safety. We recently testified that public safety is not only a Tucson City Charter mandated obligation, it's also vitally important to retain and attract businesses. Organized retail theft costs retailers and citizens in Pima County nearly $6 million a year. Site selectors review crime data prior to recommending a community for company expansion or relocation. Insurance rates take into account crime statistics as well as response times for both fire and police. Investment in our public safety infrastructure is critical for us as citizens and for our overall business success in keeping their costs down. And being a vital part of a great community, public safety is super important. The average attrition rate for officers leaving the police department is 6 per month. Those numbers have doubled on a per monthly basis over the last 12 months. In 2010, TPD had 1,150 commissioned officers. Today, that number is 780. Since 2012, the annual call volume at TFD is responsible for an increase of 20%. The number of firefighters has not kept up with the demand. This is all during a time when the population of Tucson went from 527,000 in 2010 to an approximate 553,000 today.
Well, pay is the answer. The answer to this is money. A city our size should have 800 commissioned officers, and we're just a little over 400 at this point. I applaud the mayor and council for their recent action of budgeting increases in pay to make us more competitive. I think that's important. We have a very progressive police force. I think people want to come work here. The pay is obviously an issue for some people. That needs to be addressed. The training is vigorous, and that's the way it should be, but unfortunately we're training very good police officers and they're leaving to find better pay in other communities or even staying here and working for Pima County. So we need to meet the needs of public safety in our community by having a diverse, well-trained police force. And we need some other things for public safety, but police is the anchor.
Amen.
And I am not aware of a shortfall. I am, as a candidate, I am looking at many other components of my campaign, and in all honesty, I have not had an opportunity to review that as of yet. But I'm definitely taking notes. And if you could repeat that question. It is definitely something that I would need to address in my studies in running for this office.
There's definitely, it all comes down to resources. And I think there's been a lack of focus on really emphasizing the resources going to our public safety departments. Should I be elected, that would be a focus for me, is to increase funding to have more officers, open up different academies, and recruitment. I hear recruitment is a big issue right now, and nobody wants to be an officer. So I think the city has to not only increase pay, but make it an attractive package for to attract, really promote what is it that officers do and the positive side about it, not just focus on the negative. There is a morale problem. I think that needs to be addressed with management, working with officers and really listening to them and their concerns. What can we do as a community to make their jobs better? And I do believe that leadership has a big role to play in that. And I plan to be very responsive to that as they are part of they're backbone of our community and preserving peace and quality of life.
You retain them by guaranteeing confidentiality for their families. You retain them by when they get trained, there's a contract to be signed. You're here for 5 to 7 years. At least enough time to pay back the community for your training. After that, that's your decision. But for now, we need you. We need you now. We must have at all times have a certain amount of officers on the force. They must be charging all crimes listed in the charter, not just if, ands, or whats. The funding should never have been taken away. It should be put into the charter, I believe. That way, nobody can take it away just because it's a political ideology of theirs, or because it seems to be a good idea culturally to defund the police. To defund the police, it means people in the neighborhood sitting back, waiting for something to happen. Well, say you're accused of child molestation. The only way everybody in the neighborhood can get that answer correct is by beating the crap out of you and torturing you to death. And even then, you're not going to give them the right answer. We're just going to end up with another, those 6 guys or 7 guys that were convicted in Central Park or New York City. We'll end up with false, can't even think of the word right now, but they'll confess false confessions. Why? Because it was just beaten and tortured out of the person. There's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for any politician to push for defunding of the police. Even painting on our roads is actually against the law. It's not in the charter. It's supposed to be actually street paints, and that's the end of that. Police funding, city needs to be audited from A to Z, at least 4 decades back. We need to find out we know where it's been going bad, how long it's been bad, but we need to go back 4 decades and just give people a general idea of what 4 decades ago looked like compared to now. We need to audit the city, see where all our money has been going for the last 40 years, just to show the people. We can't get all of it back, but we can show the people where it's at. Who's been pocketing it, who's been holding it, who's been hiding it. The police chief needs to be an elected official. The city manager needs to be an elected official. He alone, the manager alone, has too much power to do nothing like he is doing now. He should be elected, pure and simple. Why? So if he's not doing his job, we can hold his head to the fire, just like the rest of them. He should be holding their heads, but he's not. He isn't holding no one's head to the fire, and that's what needs to happen.